August 31st, 1997, Princess Diana, the people's princess, killed in a car crash in a Paris tunnel. The world mourned, media exploded, and Britain stood still. But almost immediately, the questions began. How does one of the most photographed women on Earth die in a tunnel with no security and no explanation that truly satisfies the public? Official reports claimed it was an accident, that the driver, Henri Paul, was drunk, that paparazzi were to blame. But as time passed, more inconsistencies surfaced. People began to wonder, was this really just a tragic crash or something darker? Diana was no ordinary royal. She was outspoken. She challenged the establishment. She talked openly about her mental health, about bulimia, about the coldness of the monarchy. She connected with people in a way that few in power ever do. And then there's the tape, a voice recording Diana made before her death, where she said, "My husband is planning an accident in my car." Coincidence? This is where things start to twist. The night of the crash, Diana and her partner, Dodi Fayed, were leaving the Ritz Hotel in Paris. They took a decoy car to distract the paparazzi. Then they switched to a black Mercedes. Just moments later, they entered the Pont de l'Alma tunnel and never came out alive. The driver was reportedly speeding, but CCTV footage from earlier in the night shows Henri Paul walking normally, not drunk. And even more suspicious, there were no CCTV recordings inside the tunnel. All cameras reportedly failed that night. Strange for a major European capital. There were also witnesses who claimed to see a flash, a bright light in the tunnel right before the crash. A tactic sometimes used to disorient drivers, especially in military or intelligence operations. But here's the thing, Diana wasn't just a royal rebel. At the time of her death, she was dating a Muslim man, and there were rumors she was pregnant. If true, this meant her future child, possibly connected to the British throne, would be of mixed race and non-Christian heritage. For some, that was unacceptable. Dodi's father, Mohammed Al-Fayed, has long claimed that the crash was a conspiracy, orchestrated by British intelligence to prevent a scandal that would shake the monarchy. Is it all just speculation? Maybe. But what about the delayed medical response? Diana was alive after the crash. She was conscious, yet she remained in the wreck for over 40 minutes. Instead of rushing to the nearest hospital, the ambulance stopped multiple times. Why? Because protocol in France requires stabilizing trauma victims before transport? Or was it something else? After the crash, Princess Diana was taken to Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital. Reports say she suffered internal bleeding, but questions still linger. Why wasn't she taken to the nearest hospital sooner? Why so many unexplained stops by the ambulance? This wasn't just any victim. This was a global icon. Shouldn't the response have been faster, tighter, more prepared? Some believe it wasn't incompetence, but intent. And then there's the issue of surveillance. No CCTV footage from the crash itself, a highly unusual blackout. In a city where nearly every street corner is watched, we're left with zero footage of the actual crash. Convenient or calculated? And what about the white Fiat Uno? Several witnesses reported a small white car in the tunnel that clipped Diana's vehicle, causing the fatal crash. Paint traces from such a car were found on the Mercedes, but the car never found. The driver never identified. Even more curious, reports emerged that the white Fiat may have belonged to a man named Levantan, a former security guard. When asked, he denied everything. But years later, in undercover recording, he hinted that authorities warned him not to talk. Why would they do that if there was nothing to hide? Let's go deeper. Just weeks before her death, Diana wrote a letter to her butler, Paul Burrell. In it, she predicted her own death. She said, "This phase in my life is the most dangerous. My husband is planning an accident in my car." That letter was kept secret for years. Diana also feared for her safety in the final months of her life. She told friends that they were watching her, that powerful people wanted her silenced. And then there's Operation Paget. The official British investigation launched in 2004, which examined these conspiracy theories. After years of digging, the conclusion? There was no foul play, just a tragic accident. But here's the catch. Many of the witnesses who came forward during that investigation claimed their testimony was ignored, distorted, or dismissed entirely. The British government closed the case, but for millions, the doubt never did. We may never know the full truth of what happened in that tunnel, but what we do know is this. Diana was a threat to the image of the monarchy. She challenged its traditions, spoke her mind, and lived her life outside the rules. And in doing so, she became loved by the people, but feared by the institution. Maybe her death was just a tragic accident, or maybe it was a carefully orchestrated act to protect a system that could not afford to be shaken. Either way, what followed her death, the silence, the inconsistencies, the missing footage, all point to one haunting reality. Some stories were never meant to see the light, but this one, it's too real to ignore.